welcome to the Art Adams' awesome panel. That's Arthur Adams right here. That's why you're here. And my name is Craig, and I'm here to moderate, but I'm really just gonna talk about how awesome art is and ask questions. And then,
do I need to be here for this?
if you want to go and come back, you can. I mean,
all right, thank you.
So I assume that everyone knows Arthur and his work, right? That's why you're here.
I've forgotten most of it myself.
And I'm sure everyone has like a favorite project that he worked on. But I think, what is your favorite project you worked on?
Oh gosh, I'm generally pretty happy with most of the stuff I've done. I think the things that I look back on most fondly are probably the 3 issues I did of Fantastic Four with Walter Simonson, partly because I'm such a big fan of Walter's. And then I'm pretty happy with the Gumby comics I did. First with Bob Burton and second with my pal Steve Purcell. So those are pretty fun, and I think they exceeded expectations. Not hard to do when you're doing a Gumby comics. That's also part of my career choice. Part of my career goal is to set expectations very low. It seems to work out pretty good.
So let's see, what other questions we have for Arthur that are kind of fun and interesting and not the same things you hear all the time.
Don't worry about it.
Okay, fair enough.
Then you'll start asking about like underwear and stuff.
Well, everyone wants to know about that. What are you working on right now? What's going on that people can find out there? You know, some covers?
Well, let's see. I'm working on they're relaunching Marvel Comics Presents again, so I'm desperately late on the cover for that right now. I was working on late into the night last night. They think it's going to be done today. It's not. What are you going to do? And so I have that and a couple other things coming up. I have a Create Your Own project that's underway, but I'm not going to talk about that even a little bit, except for what I just did just now.
Just to tease it.
Just say I'm doing it, but I'm not going to talk about it. Yeah. It'll suck. Setting expectations low.
I could ask more questions, but does anyone else have questions here? Anyone? Yes, sir.
2 parts. When you're growing up, who were your artistic influences, comic book wise, but also in general? And right now, who are some people that you look at that you really I like what they're doing?
So when I was a kid, I thought I was going to be a paleontologist because I love dinosaurs. So I love to look at the art of Charles Knight, who is a really excellent dinosaur artist. Probably one of the main ones, especially of like the early 20th century and into a little further in. And some of those other fellows. So I used to draw dinosaurs all the time, so I thought I was going to do that. And then I found out paleontologists actually have to work outside a lot, where it's either really hot or really cold. And I don't like those. So then I saw King Kong, and I was like, oh, I could do something like that. I could make monsters for movies, and I think they do that mostly indoors. So that's mostly pretty good, right? But then I discovered monster comics by people like Steve Ditko and Jack Kirby, and I really like those. So I liked the idea that they're monster comics. So artistically, like in the mid-'70s, I discovered Frazetta. And like a lot of hopeful artists, I thought I was going to be able to paint as well as Frank Frazetta for about a year or two. Turns out I can't. So then I started pursuing comics a little bit more. So I was really drawn to the artwork of people like John Buscema, especially when he's inked by Alfredo Alcala on some issues of Savage Sword of Conan. And then Barry Smith's Conan I liked a great deal. And then I discovered people like Walter Simonson, I was a super big fan of and still am, and Michael Golden. So like probably the main people that were the 3 I always list as the top for getting into comics was Michael Golden, Walter Simonson, and Barry Smith. But I was a big fan of tons and tons of comics, like a big fan of Gil Kane and Jack Kirby and Steve Ditko. Pretty much everyone. Like my Spider-Man was Ross Andrew, so I really like that because he fought Stegron the Dinosaur Man. Not Ross Andrew, I mean Spider-Man. I mean, I don't know Ross Andrew. He could have fought a dinosaur man. I don't know. Never met him, but I think I made that as confusing and stupid as possible.
Was that both parts? Did he answer both parts?
Oh, and the young people.
Oh.
See, that's the thing with that. That's because I'm old enough. The young people are not young. Yeah, I like Olivier Coipel very much, and Ed McGuinness, and that's it. The rest suck. I'm sure there's others I like too. I just can't think of them at the moment.
Now, is it weird to know, like, you inspired a whole generation of artists to
That is weird.
to
That
copy
is weird.
you? And
Well, on one hand, I was greatly inspired by so many people. So it was weird, especially when I was in my early 20s, that people were like trying to draw like me. Like, well, that's stupid. But also, I realized not too long afterwards that this is the way my brain works. Is that if someone got into comics, became a professional comic book artist, like a day before I did, they are wise to the world. They know how everything works. They're geniuses. Someone got in a day after I did. Punks. Never gonna get into it. It's just a sad white try. So again, doesn't say anything good about me.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
That's that question. Like, is there any property that you haven't worked on that you wish you could work on, or any like?
Not that I can think of. Mostly I wish I'd been more productive. I'm hoping like in the next year or two I'll finally grow up and I'll be able to become a real comic book artist. I think that'd be nice. Because when I started, I thought I was going to be drawing a monthly book, because all the people that I really liked were doing monthly books. But I think I've done a monthly book like once, and that was for 3 months. So I don't think it really counts, but...
The other part, I guess, would be, would you, like, obviously, you do covers, would you rather do the covers or rather do the whole book?
I would actually rather do interiors, but I'm slow, and covers pay more, and I have a mortgage and a daughter who's 8 years old, so going for the money for now.
It's funny, people will say, oh, my favorite stuff you do is like the X-Men or your Avengers. And if you go to his booth, I don't know if you've all stopped by there yet, but he's got these cover recreations that are just phenomenal.
Super fun to do.
And they're really inspiring. I'm like, oh my God, I want to try something like that. But then you look through his sketchbooks, and there's so much other fun stuff and wild stuff in there that, as much as I love his Avengers work or his Fantastic Four covers, I see like some of his monster drawings. And we were talking about the Hanna-Barbera characters. He did this spread in his sketchbook. That's just fantastic.
It was super fun.
So I think sometimes when you're working on characters that are, not the ones you're working on every day, it gives you a chance to flex some different muscles.
There's a little bit of that, and also sometimes when I'm drawing characters like Gumby or Jabberjaw or even Scooby-Doo, I realize what a foolish choices I've made in my life. I could be doing a lot more work if I just cut back on some of this stuff. But it was great when I don't know if you've seen this thing. If you come by the booth, you can see it inside my sketchbook. There's a 2-page spread of this presentation piece I did for Hanna-Barbera, featuring a lot of their various characters. So while I was working on it, my daughter knew I was working on a Scooby-Doo thing. But as I'm penciling stuff, and it was a big piece, so sometimes I'll put pieces of paper down so I don't smear the pencils. So she came in to see what I was doing. She sat on my lap, and I had a piece of paper covering up where Scooby-Doo was, but I was drawing Muttley. And she looked at it and was like, your Scooby-Doo is terrible. Why are you drawing him like that? And I was like, no, hold on a second, move the paper aside. Like, oh, okay, you can keep going. That's a different character.
What do you do to artistically challenge yourself? I mean, you've done so much, and one thing about your work is that it's consistently just so good, where there's a lot of artists who are very, very good, but sometimes you get to the point where they keep doing like the same thing, and yet you seem to always kind of, just every piece seems to still be interesting, like, oh, I've seen him do this a zillion times. Are there any tricks, or you just go about it?
I'm working on one now that you'll think is, I'm coasting. I do keep trying. That's one of the good things about being paid a little bit better to do covers and knowing that they sell for a reasonably good amount, that I can spend a little more time, and it pays to spend a little more time. So, I mean, mainly, I don't know why I keep pushing myself, but I do.
Well, thank you.
Mike, will you ever see another Monkeyman and O'Brien?
I hope so. I have lots more ideas to do it. I just keep on having shiny objects put in front of me like Scooby-Doo. I go, yeah, I'll put off drawing my own thing so I can draw Scooby-Doo this week. Why not?
Now,
And of course, when I say 1 week, I take 2 weeks to do it. So.
Now, do you have like a regular work schedule? Like, do you get up every day and get right to work, or do you kind of go online, check your email, go for coffee, or do you try to keep it contained? You have a studio?
For a while, when I would get up, I would make my daughter her breakfast and her lunch and try to get her moving along for school. Because she's one of those kids who you can put food in front of her and an hour later, most of it's still there. And you don't know how she lives. You worry about that a little bit. And so apparently I would get a little snappy with her. So my wife said, you know what, let me do this. You just get up and work. And I like that so far, that's pretty good. So generally, I get to work like 9-ish or so, and then work most of the day. We might go pick her up at the end of school and go out to dinner, or I'll make dinner. I generally make dinner, which I like to do, and then we'll do homework and do story time and all that sort of stuff, and then I'll do work for a few more hours each night.
Okay.
Yeah. Exciting.
Gentleman in the back with the, well, yes.
So you were just talking about like your daily process. Like what's your lead time for a project? Like say you're kind of.
It really depends. I mean, there's a project that I'm working on right now, which they asked me to do a week ago, and so I was just getting. I'm just going to complain for this guy. Here. We just got back from Singapore and I got sick. So I told him I could get it done in a week, and then I didn't because I couldn't. So I've just been working on it in the hotel room. So it's almost done. It's penciled, and I started inking it. They think it's going to be done today. It's not going to be done today. Don't tell them. They'll probably notice. So that does happen sometimes. There's I have a bunch of covers for a Thor project coming up that they asked for about 3 months ago. And I just recently, like a week ago, because I knew I was doing this cover right now, I said, do you remember that thing you talked about a while ago? Do you still need that? Oh yeah, we need that. And we actually need it this week. It's like, well, there's this other thing happening, so that's not happening. And also I'm going to go see King Kong on Broadway. Very excited about that next week, so I also won't be drawing a cover that day. Unless it's a King Kong one. And I can draw it there, which I don't want to do. I don't think.
Does that answer your question?
Oh, yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, what are the projects you feel most passionate about? Because it kind of seems like you'd rather be drawing giant monsters or kaiju fights than Wolverine. So I guess it makes sense you enjoy New Fantastic Four because you got to do both.
So part of the thing that inspires me a lot for work, whether it makes any sense or not, are the things that I really loved when I was a kid. So I always try to keep like a fresh well. That's kind of my fresh well to go back to all the time, which means generally monsters and dinosaurs. And things like that, and that means Fantastic Four, maybe Spider-Man, characters like the Hulk, some of those more 60s era characters. So for me, like when they first asked me to draw X-Men, I was aware that John Byrne was doing it. I bought the books and I liked them, but when they asked me to draw X-Men, it didn't have the same emotional resonance as something like the Fantastic Four, because when I was a kid, X-Men sucked. Right? It was like it was the third or fourth book Kirby did that day.
Yeah.
And not to say anything bad about that, I have nothing but admiration for the vast productivity and imagination that he brought to what he was doing. But X-Men wasn't the best one.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think I only officially did one whole issue of New Mutants. It was a New Mutants special, but it was 64 pages, so it was like 3 issues. And there's a lot of panels, so it seemed like it would never end.
Is that the Asgardian?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I did a few covers, so I've not done tons of New Mutants. Well, I guess they showed up in one X-Men annual I did. So that's 40 pages. That counts as 5 issues. So I think I drew all the New Mutants. It was just 5 issues, right?
Now, have you signed up to a project and then like after you agreed to do it, gone, man, this is not clicking.
I have. Fortunately, it's only happened a couple of times. The one I've been thinking about most recently, because I saw someone else's work, and I was baffled by what they did. I was impressed that he was able to do it. I'm not going to name any names. In Return of Wolverine, Mr. McNiven. I never said that, but I was amazed by what he did, because he drew it all kind of like Barry Smith.
Exactly.
And I was like, that's impressive that you did that. You're Mr. McNiven. Why are you doing that? So I was hired to do a job that was originally going to be 4 issues. of Doctor Strange meets the artist Mobius. And there's some problem in Mobius's head. So Doctor Strange has to go in Mobius's head. And so originally a different artist was going to draw four different chapters of this adventure, then they decided to make it one 48-page book. So I spent about a month, maybe two. I only ended up penciling, I think, 5 pages of it. But of trying to draw like Mobius for his sci-fi stuff, for Arzak stuff, Mobius's cowboy stuff, and there was another style. It was I can't remember the other style now. But basically, it was going to be drawn in my style and in Mobius' style, 3 different styles in one story. And I tried so hard to draw like Mobius, and I thought I was getting close, and I was like, why am I doing this? There's already a Mobius, and he's pretty good. I don't really, it's stupid for me to be trying. But apparently Mobius was keen on the whole project. I was like, sorry, I can't do it. I'm out. So I think they actually Marshall Rogers ended up doing it.
Oh, really?
And it was fine, but it wasn't Mobius. But
Right.
it was also a stupid idea.
Any other questions? Yes, sir.
So I love how detailed your artwork is, but yet there's still lots of like places for your eye to rest, I guess, How do you get that balance between like just
I have no
extreme
idea.
detail and just
I just keep going until it looks right.
Yeah, okay.
And then mostly it still doesn't look right, but the editor says I have to turn it in anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. So no, I do try to focus on what I'm doing. I try to make the rendering or the things that look like gibberish flow in a certain way, and also try to make sure that if I'm drawing extraneous weird stuff, that it still kind of points towards the important stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So, and mostly from when